What's going on, everyone? This is the Broken Lobo. Welcome to the Broken Lobo gaming channel. Today we're talking about rune farming in Elden Ring. One of the best rune farm spots in the entire game. This is MOHGYWN Palace. In particular, I'm going to be discussing two separate rune farms and talking about the pros and cons of each and which one I prefer. This is a purely informational video. And so in no way am I telling you which one to choose. Certainly what I'd like to do is just provide my insight and my experience with these rune farms and which one I think is best. Either way, MOHGYWN is an incredibly lucrative area from a rune farming perspective. So no matter which way you go, I think you'll be in good shape. Just wanted to kind of shine a light on one of the lesser known farms. Let's get into it. Alright, so this first farm is situated near the site of grace that you can activate if you are teleported to this area via the consecrated snowfields. This farm features the notorious bird that you can aggro, have jump off the cliff for 13,000 runes, which you'll see at the end of this run, in addition to a bunch of catatonic slash sleeping silver-skinned albinarics. There are also two groups of red-skinned albinarics, 4 apiece. These are the ones that you want to worry about because they are the most offensively potent, the ones that when aggroed can do the most damage, and the ones that don't necessarily need to be hit in order to be aggroed. So these are the guys you want to take out first, preferably with a projectile of some sort. In this video you can see that I've chosen to use bow and arrow. I think one of the pros of this area, in addition to obviously how easy it is, you just have these guys waiting to be killed, essentially the gray-skinned albinarics. You also don't need to be overly powerful in order to complete this area. You can use strategy and not necessarily brute force in order to win. And you don't necessarily, again, need to be incredibly powerful in order to successfully farm this area, simply because most of the enemies are not aggroing, and the ones that do aggro can be easily taken out if you are using a proper strategy. So in this instance, I decide that I want to take out the more aggressive albinarics first, and then take out the gray-skinned sleeping albinarics after that. The second group of aggressive albinarics is coming up the hill, and they are triggered once you start walking down the hill. Again, here I would recommend using some area of effect attack that can quickly take out the group, or if you feel like you're powerful enough or skillful enough, then certainly you can use melee with a weapon of your choosing in order to take these guys out. In this case, I just want it to be as efficient as possible. So again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you want to aggro this bird that is patrolling the blood lake below us. He'll jump off. He's worth 13,000 runes. This rune farm generates 62,000 runes. Took me about 3 minutes. Moving on to the next rune farm, and the one that I prefer. This one is situated near the Dynasty Mausoleum Midpoint site of grace, which is the site of grace that's activated directly before facing Mohg, Lord of Blood. There's a group of enemies here that are guarding a very powerful weapon upgrade item. But to me, their value really lies in the amount of runes that you're able to farm in a very short period of time. In this instance, as you can see here, my character is powerful enough that I'm able to take care of the Sanguine Noble very quickly. So one of, the cons of this farm, I think, is that you need to make sure that you're of the proper level, somewhere over 100, in order to effectively take out these groups. The reason that I say that is because the red albinarics, while not incredibly powerful, do have fairly substantial health bars for regular mobs in the game, and so you want to be mindful of using a tactic that takes them out in chunks, that can attack the group. As you can see, I prefer to use Rotten Breath, but there are myriad ways, myriad area of attack, either incantations or spells or sorceries that you can use in order to take out groups of enemies at once. So you want to keep that in mind. That is the beauty of this farm, is that if you're of the proper level, or if your build is just optimized, you can take out this group of enemies in a minute or less and generate 24,000 runes per run. So whereas you're not generating as many runes in a singular run, you are able to replicate this run a lot faster. Conceivably, you can do this run 60 times in an hour, and at 24,000 runes, you're generating about 1.4 million runes per hour. Whereas with the first rune farm, you had about 60,000 runes every 3 minutes, which tops out at about 1.2 million runes per hour. So you're generating about 200,000 more runes using the farm that we're looking at now. I think it's probably a little bit more dangerous, but I do believe that between the efficiency in terms of the timing and with the adequate amount of runes that you're able to farm, that it's more than worth it. Especially because, again, if you're doing this consistently, you're able to generate over almost 1.5 million runes per hour, which I think is pretty good for, I would say, early to mid-game progress. So what you see here is that it looks like I've looped this run over and over again, but what I wanted to do was do an apples to apples comparison, or the closest thing to it, in terms of how much runes can be generated when we're looking at an equal amount of time. Given that the first rune farm takes about 3 minutes, I want to run the second rune farm about 3 times. Again, since each rune farm takes about 1 minute, sometimes less, if you're able to take out these groups very quickly and quickly reload the area. And so when comparing apples to apples in terms of the amount of time that it takes to rune farm, and comparing the two areas, I would say in terms of efficiency, the second area is the better choice, bar none. In terms of runes collected per farm, then the first area is better. Obviously, you're collecting about 62,000 runes to the 24,000 runes that you're collecting with the second area. But one of the downsides is that it takes a little bit longer for you to complete that area. Again, one of the upsides of that first area, though, is that you don't need to be as powerful in order to farm it effectively. So it's still a very good spot for you to farm, especially if you're early in the game and you decide to complete various quests in order to access this area as quickly as possible. Again, the choice will always be yours at the end of the day. It'll always be a matter of what you decide is most comfortable for you, but I want to share my experience and demonstrate what I believe are the pros and cons of each of these areas. I definitely prefer the second farm, simply because when you look at the amount of time that it takes to farm the first area, about 3 minutes, you're generating about 10,000 more runes every 3 minutes with the second farm, which is 24,000 runes times 3 minutes times 3 attempts, versus the 62,000 runes that you are generating when you decide to use the first farm, which is, I think, a little bit easier and more accessible. So I think that perhaps the best answer here is early game, perhaps using the cliff is your best bet. But as you get stronger and more confident in your ability to take on groups of enemies and tougher enemies like the Sanguine Noble, then I would certainly recommend the farm that's nearest the Dynasty Mausoleum Midpoint, Site of Grace, simply because it's, to me, I just don't think that you can beat the efficiency in terms of turnaround time. You're talking about less than a minute's worth of combat. You're generating about 24,000 runes per run, and again, you know, you can do that 60 times. You're generating at least 1.4 million runes, which I think is nothing to scoff at, especially as you start to level your character to the point where the rune levels become very expensive. Right now my character is at level 219. Each rune level is costing me about 375, and obviously we know that's only going to increase. To me, using the second rune farm, if I decide to dedicate a chunk of 2 to 4 hours to farming, you know, we're talking about a minimum of 2 million runes, so that's 5 points. A maximum of 4 million runes, we're talking about 10 points per. And I don't know about you, but I prefer to level up several levels at a time, so that I can focus on enjoying the game, as opposed to leveling at every opportunity. It just becomes tedious that way. Anyway, that's just my approach. So that's the end of the video. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. Hope that you found it informative. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. I may come back with more Elden Ring tutorial content. I'm not sure. We'll see how this video does. But I thank you for being here and listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace.